Hello, beautiful Scorpios. These are going to be your messages for the next few weeks, starting in the month of December. If the messages don't make sense to you right away when you first hear them, give yourself a few weeks and check back again in a few weeks. And I have a feeling it'll make sense to you later. For those of you who comment, this is what I hear and see all the time. If you are coming back, thank you so much for coming back. I love your support. Thank you for that. And for those of you who are new, welcome. I hope you stay. I hope you like what you hear. My intention, which I always want to state, is to give you information that has the potential to shift your perspective. As you shift your perspective, you shift your vibration. Every time you do a major shift of vibration, the universe realigns itself according to your vibration, and your life begins to take on a different look. It begins to change. So those are powerful, powerful things. Let me just tune in and see what energies I am being asked to kind of project forward. So right away, I'm getting a feeling of being very tired. Now, you may be physically tired for some of you. For some of you, you are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually tired. You are exhausted. And for some others of you, it is a combination of all of those. And generally speaking, the month of December, November and December feel that way because we've just spent a whole year doing our own thing, and we're coming to holiday season, we're coming to an end of the year, and things slow down depending on where you live. The weather changes. If you live in the northern hemisphere, it gets darker much sooner. So sometimes we have feelings that are a little subdued, or you're feeling tired. Just like in spring, you feel different because the sun comes up and you know, the chemicals in the brain start to be created, and all the feel-good hormones are coming into play. So it's not unusual to feel a little bit blah at this time of year. And I have not given this message before to another sign. So there is some of you that need to hear this. So if you're feeling a little bit melancholy or a little bit blue, know that this is not unusual. The other thing I want to say is that, and I've said this earlier, with the energies that we are experiencing, us moving into higher vibrations, we are generally experiencing, at least in my experience and those I speak to and hear, where the energy, the frequency, the level of frequency is causing us to deal with some things emotionally, and those are usually manifested by either situations or feelings coming up to the surface. Generally, it's for the purpose of needing it to be cleared, or of being cleared. So if you're running... My apologies if it's not one thing, it's something else. There was a knock at the door that was quite loud. I couldn't ignore it. So where were we? Yes, at this time of year, you may feel a little bit blue. It's not unusual, but also you may feel heightened emotions because of the frequencies that we are experiencing. So whenever we experience certain emotions come up to the surface, it is a good time for us to recognize what it is and to allow those emotions go through us, which means generally we need to feel it. And many people are afraid of feeling certain feelings or emotions because, well, some of those things don't feel good. So what we do instead, we push it aside, we squash it, we subdue it, we oppress it, suppress it, try to get rid of it, fix it, deny it, anything but to effectively dealing with it. And as long as we don't deal with it effectively, we will never be free of whatever that emotional connection is attached to. So if there is anything that's coming up to the surface over the next few weeks or even few months pertaining to how you feel about yourself, your limitations that you have, any sort of old patterns rearing its ugly head, so to speak, those are all signs of you coming to a point of completion where these things, when taken care of, when realigned, when understood, when detached from, will allow you to let go of whatever is no longer serving you. I saw that things were getting exposed, and it was very interesting how it was shown to me, because it felt very much like something cracked and things got exposed. And you can use that analogy in various situations. But what it feels to me is whatever the exposure is, it's exposure of information. This can quite simply mean that something in your life cracks, or something comes to an end, or something breaks. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. And that situation exposes certain truth to the surface. I saw this truth as goodies, which meant to me, whatever the truth is that comes out is really good. Because the moment you know your truth is the moment where you can start living your life differently. And we lie to ourselves all the time. I said this to another sign just a moment ago. We tell ourselves things that simply aren't true, but we say them because it's what we're used to. It's because how we identify ourselves. And listen, if someone called you stupid long time ago, that doesn't mean that you're stupid. It just means if you feel stupid because someone called you stupid, is you decided on some level to believe that what the person was saying was true. But it may not necessarily be that you're stupid. As a matter of fact, chances are you're not. So that's how I'm being asked to present it. So whatever these goodies coming up are, they're fundamentally connected to your root chakra, which is all about safety, sheer survival, and security. When we don't feel safe and secure, it is a lot harder for us to create, because our primary focus is on being safe. Therefore, if the primary focus is on being safe and trying to make sure that we are safe, number one, it denotes that we are not safe right now. And therefore, if we are not safe right now, chances are we are expecting, usually subconsciously, something to go wrong. As long as we have that subconscious expectation, chances are we are always going to be on the lookout for something's happening. So those lookout components can be your triggers. So something is going to come to the surface for you over the next few weeks or few months that will expose a certain truth. Perhaps it is your truth that you have denied for quite some time, or truth in a certain situation that you were not able to see. And as a result of this, you will begin to solve and resolve some things within you that will allow you, and I see it as you putting things on the shelf. Whenever I see things being put on the shelves, it means you're done using it, you're done, what's the word I want to use, please? Dealing with it. It's now on your shelf as far as knowledge. So it becomes your knowledge. It no longer becomes part of your constant creation. And wisdom is also knowledge. So and remember, we are completing a cycle at the very least, because we're coming to an end of the year. And I feel this is very consistent with all the signs that I've done so far, and this is the 7th sign I'm doing. There's heavy emphasis on completing or needing to complete certain cycles. And remember, we're moving into energies where frequency-wise we will vibrate much higher, and our higher vibration will bring forth manifestation in a physical form much quicker, which means our thoughts and our emotions are very potent. They're going to be even more potent and are already becoming more potent as we speak. Therefore, anything you drag with you, any history components you drag with you, you are just dragging your history into your future, which means your future is your history. And chances are, if you are not happy with something, or something hasn't been serving you, you want that to remain part of your history, not part of your future, right? You want it to be part of your past. So what does this all mean to you? Well, first and foremost, when I asked, what does their spirit want them to know? What is important for you, Scorpios, to know in this month? And as I'm saying this, I'm almost getting a feeling of being a little bit emotional. It's coming right up to my throat. For those of you sensitives, you may feel something in your throat. It's almost as if whatever I have said triggered something. And to me, if I was to describe it, it feels like an emotion wants to come up. So I'm not quite ready to cry, but it's a couple steps before that. If you feel that, take this as an opportunity to close your eyes, tune into this feeling, give this feeling a color, give this feeling a shape. Take this colored shape out of, imagine taking this colored shape out of your throat, put it in your hands where you can see it in your mind, and ask the question, what are you trying to tell me? I do this with my clients a lot of the times, particularly when I'm being prompted by spirit. And just the way I do this allows the person to shift into a different level of consciousness, and it allows them to communicate with aspects of themselves they didn't even know existed or they didn't know how to reach. So if you feel emotion, examine it. Don't be afraid of it. Feeling in and of itself will do no harm to you. It just may not feel comfortable. But the more you neglect it, the more you reject it, the more persistent it becomes. So you are divinely supported. Whatever it is that you are going through, you are divinely supported. And I believe I gave that message in a weekly pulse, the one for November 24th, I believe, or 18th, whichever it was, last week. And this message came up as well. So you are being asked to trust that we are being divinely guided, all right? For some of you, it is important to have some sort of activity that allows you, activity is not the right word, but you get the picture, that allows you to connect with your inner self. Because that is how the divine, God, divine, what source, whatever you want to call it, communicates to you. It communicates through your intuition. Your guides communicate through your intuition. The universe itself and the cosmic knowledge communicates to you through your intuition and through telepathy. So it's important for you, obviously, to connect. When you have access to all this information and all it's required is for you to connect to it, then it would make sense to make that a necessary step of your journey, because why wouldn't you want to connect to something that can potentially help you, right? So we are being divinely guided and supported. You are being supported. What strikes me about this card more than anything is your sacral chakra. So it's orange, almost turns into red, but it's sacral chakra I am being drawn to, and that's about trust. And for many of you, you have had challenges with either accepting or owning your feminine power. Some of you have shoved that aspect of you as far as you can see, or as far as you can't see. For whatever reason, generally, it's due to something that transpires, and you have neglected that aspect of you, and that can interfere with many things. But one of the biggest things that it can interfere with is relationships. And let's face it, we live in this world, literally relationships all over the place. So it's not just physical, it's not just relationships we have, with spouses and significant others. But of course, if you have been suppressing your feminine power, or if you have been afraid to embody or own your feminine power, men included, then you would have been holding yourself back. And there's usually a reason why. So understanding the reasons why becomes very, very important at this part of your journey, because understanding the reason why can give you a different perspective, which can shift your connection to it. And as a result, you can let that go. So hugely important. We're all on a spiritual journey. Even if you don't consider yourself spiritual, you are spirit embodied. And even if you're an atheist, even though you probably wouldn't watch this, you are still spirit in the body. So you may not consider yourself spiritual, but you're a spirit. You're spiritual. You're on a spiritual journey. And we're all on a spiritual journey. And many of us are healing our old wounds. Many of us are, I'm hearing, connecting to Akashic records. That's interesting. That's not a word I use often. even though I think I connect with it all the time because I just plug in. So some of you have that gift of connecting to your Akashic records or to the idea of Akashic records, whatever that means to you. Akashic records to me means knowledge. So again, we're talking about books, knowledge. In your time of meditation, you can tune into your Akashic records and ask those records for guidance. I don't want to get too much into that because it feels like it could be a video on its own, which maybe if you like something like that, let me know and I'll see what I can do. Okay, let's move on to the next card. What are you leaving behind? Brilliant. The Six of Wands, which is a message of someone who is opposite of feeling victorious. So this is what you're leaving behind is disappointments and lack of feeling victory. Is there another word that I can use? Disappointment. I want to say the word disappointment. And this could be disappointment in your love life. This could be disappointment generally in relationships. This could be disappointments you have about yourself. This could just be disappointments that you have in life. You're generally just disappointed. Life has disappointed you. And that feeling of disappointment you have towards something or someone else is you are letting that go. Now, does that mean all of a sudden that in January you're going to feel totally victorious? You could. But chances are it's going to be shed by layers. So over the next few weeks, you will start to recognize certain aspects within you that you were hiding or hiding from. And you will recognize those aspects of you not as something that is bad, but something that is actually incredibly incredible. It's just that you have not seen it that way before. I'm being asked to give an example. Okay. Let's say you've grown up in a home where there was a lot of back and forth talk between your parents, and it wasn't very nice. And you were the person who witnessed that and may have felt not safe, not secure. By the way, some of you will get triggered on this because I'm feeling it right at the top of my chest, okay? And that may have created a situation where you felt there was no consistency in terms of peace and happy feelings, and your life felt chaotic and scary. As a result of that, you may have become extraordinarily independent because you said to yourself, there is no freaking way I'm ever going to be in that situation. So I'm going to control things and be in control and be super independent. So that situation, as uncomfortable and painful as it may have been, while growing in that environment, has given you an incredible drive and an incredible skill to become an independent person. Now, generally, when we do something because we're trying to compensate for what we didn't have, we tend to go to the other side a little bit. We tend to overcompensate. So in this scenario, if you began to be very independent, you may have been so independent that you refuse to let other people in. That's going a little bit too far to the other side. So remember, it's all about balance. So that's just an example how a situation that was not necessarily happy or even painful can be looked at in terms of what it has given you as far as your own value. And every single experience, and I don't care what it is, even the terrible ones, every single experience has its value. It has value to offer to us as long as we are willing to look at it from a different angle, okay? There's no such thing as useless situations. And yes, I know there are some things that I, as Joanna, cannot come to terms with in this physical world. For example, abuse of animals. I cannot even watch a commercial of SPCA because I get physically ill. So I don't understand humans disregarding animals' life like that. But I also understand that there's this other aspect of me that we are experiencing this for a reason. So it teaches us compassion. It helps us to create voice for those who don't have a voice. There's many beautiful things that come from it. And some of these animals come in and choose to sacrifice their life in order to help us learn. And even though I know that on a certain level, and I know that as my truth, I know it, my own humanness, I struggle with it. I really, really do. And, sometimes things are difficult to digest. There's no question about it. But at the end of the day, if we focus on things that are of low vibration, it doesn't mean we ignore. Absolutely not. But if we focus our attention on those things, like fears, like things that are not good enough, the idea of scarcity, you get the picture, or constantly. For example, if you're going to watch shows about people who are getting abused, and you're going to watch shows, as an example, like that for a long period of time, it's going to get to you. It's going to affect you. It's just the way it is. So the good thing would be to not watch these things, to watch something else. So this is also taking me to an area where it's important for you to realize that whatever you put your focus on is what you're creating more of. So if you are listening, for example, to, I'm going to use an example of CNN, although I love CNN, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it can be very repetitive, and I understand the purpose of that, not deny it. But when I listen to it for more than a few minutes, I get anxious. I sometimes get angry. It activates something in me that I don't like. Now, when we listen to it for long periods of time, we become so immune to it, it doesn't seem to affect us, but actually it does. Because everything we do has an effect, positive, negative, or somewhere in between. So if you are one of those people who watches shows like that every single day, where everything is about being scare tactics and things like that, then you are not in a right mindset if you want to create abundance, because you're in scarcity. That doesn't mean you get to ignore or you should ignore what's going on. No, but focusing your attention for a prolonged period of time will get you more of that, will affect you. There's no question about it. What are you also letting go of? 5 of Cups in reverse. So this is all about the past. This is about what have you lost. Focusing on what you've lost, focusing on what was, focusing on what you wish it could be or how things were, and now shifting it around and focusing on what you have instead what you don't have. And that's the proverbial glass half full versus glass half empty. It's essentially the same thing, but it does mean it depends how you look at it. And how you look at something is based on what you believe. What you believe is your truth. What is your truth, you will create. You get the picture, okay? 7 of Coins in reverse. Let me tune into this message, okay? For some of you, I feel like you have over-invested yourself in something, or you have over-invested yourself, or you have invested yourself, but you're not getting any payoff. And for some of you, the message is maybe you're sticking around for too long. Maybe it's time to reassess your situation. So I'm not going to dig into details because that's going to ring true to you or not. And if there is something that has been nagging at you and you feel that you have over-invested yourself, but you're not getting anything in return. And by the way, it doesn't mean that every time you do something, you always have to get back something in return. Well, you do anyway, because that's the energetic exchange. Because sometimes we sacrifice things. Yes, but I'm talking perpetual. I'm talking on regular basis. I'm talking, something that you are spending a lot of effort and energy on, presumably because you want to get something from it, but it's not coming back to you. If that's the case, I want to say it's worth reconsidering or considering again the reasons why you were invested in that in the first place. Perhaps you are invested for the wrong reasons. That could be. What's the emotional component that is important for you to connect with or take care of? Forgiveness and gratitude. This is a month of letting go. I'm telling you guys, this is a month of letting go. 8 and 4, two numbers that are all about strength for me and foundation. 8 and 4 comes to 12. 1 and 2 is 3. So you are in a process of growth, and this growth is about forming a new stable foundation that starts with your belief, and that also starts with forgiveness and gratitude, that will eventually allow you to feel the strength you want to feel. At the end of the day, you are a strong person. All of you are strong people. Sometimes we don't feel strong because we feel very tired, and I think that's what I felt at the very beginning. Or was it with somebody else? No, it was with somebody else, something else. And when we hold on to things from the past, then we are not really able to move forward fully because we're dragging the energy from our past. And forgiveness is a funny thing. I have met people who said, I will never forget this person. And they were just so self-righteous about it. And I thought, oh my God, you're not realizing how this is just hurting you. It's just hurting you. So forgiveness is not about forgiving, letting the person off the hook and accepting that what they did was right. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. Forgiveness is about you taking the noose off of your neck so you're no longer hung on it. So it's no longer in control of you. And also forgiveness of self. It's probably one of the most difficult things that I have experienced in my professional life and in my own life. Forgiving ourselves for things we are not, should have done, wouldn't have done, didn't do, whatever. Self-forgiveness seems to be one of the most difficult things, but it makes sense to me because self-love is also one of the most difficult things. We are all here on a love journey. We are here to learn how to self-love, how to accept ourselves, how to love ourselves, which in and of itself is very ironic, and here's why. The energy that flows through all creation is the energy of love. That is the glue that binds, holds everything, including who we are. You and I are light. This light is vibration of love. We don't feel that, we don't know that, we don't remember that because we chose to experience life based on limitations. But when I say we are here to learn how to love, it's a bit of an oxymoron because we are all love, every single human being. And yeah, some of you must say, well, this person cannot be love. Maybe, but we are all, essence comes from love. It's not the type of love that you feel towards another. It's much bigger than that. And I actually felt this on a couple of occasions, and I remember feeling it. And the best way that I can describe it is I felt like I was plugged into 1,000-watt outlet. And like my body was literally vibrating, and I felt like my body was going to be literally blown into pieces. And then I heard a voice say to me, this is but 25% of who you are. And I went, holy SHIT. That power would blow me apart. So, because it's all energy, right? So we are all that frequency. It's just currently we are not able to experience that because we are in our limited state. But when I say we're here to learn how to love ourselves, we're really here to remember who we are. And because of that, we are virtually unlimited. Yes, we are limited by the bodies we wear and by the thoughts we have, but even within our limitations in terms of having a human experience, we have still a lot of potential. And the only way we don't live up to that potential is because we fear, we limit ourselves. If that wasn't enough, leaving home is another message, which means you're about to graduate, or you are graduating. In your spirit essence, you are moving on from, let's call it a karmic cycle. You are letting go of something that has plagued you for a very long time, quite possibly for many incarnations. The number 104 comes to a 5. Again, changes. Change in the way you feel about yourself, change in vibration that allows you to move on to good, better and different things. And what is this change about? What are you graduating from? What is the lesson that you are finally letting go of? One that's connected to your primal fears. So what are some of your primal fears? What are some of your survival fears? Some of you will have fears of being alone. Some of you have fears of rejections. Some of you have fears of not being loved. Some of you have fears of being homeless. Some of you have fears of not being good enough. Some of you have fears that you will never find love. I mean, we have many of those things, and oftentimes we make choices and decisions while filtering through our fears, which means we're not living fully. We're living in limited ways because fear limits. But remember, fear is a strength in the making. So if you can find a way to understand and see your fear and see it from a different perspective, you will connect to it differently. You will see it as a value, and therefore it'll become a friend of yours rather than the enemy. Whenever you have a friend, you usually don't fight a friend. When you have an enemy, you fight an enemy. You get the picture. When you fight the enemy that's within you, you have an internal fight, which means there is no peace. And peace is all you want. Love is a peaceful state. When you're in love, for example, you experience a lot of peace. You feel a lot of peace. When you feel peaceful, love flows more freely through you and to you and from you. And my beautiful tiger is about feminine energy. So for those of you who have pushed that aspect of you aside, it's that aspect of you is ready to come out of hiding. Also, the intuition here, sign for intuition. Some of you are quite psychic. Your feminine power, allowing your feminine power to come through, will allow you to be more psychically perceiving, or you will perceive psychically much stronger. Don't be afraid of yourself. That's interesting. Don't be afraid of yourself. What could that mean? Most people are actually afraid of their own power. And I have experienced that. Spirit has given me that experience to feel my own power. And it scared me. It absolutely scared me. And it's a really bizarre feeling to have, because I felt this enormity of what my power is, even though it was only a percentage, like a fraction. And it scared me. And it wasn't because it was bad. It's because everything that I have known up until that point, or my ego, went crashing down. And that was very scary. Everything I have identified with was literally eliminated. It was pushed aside. And that was scary. To the ego, that was very, very, very scary, because everything I identified with myself, with this, everything I was, according to my limitations, just went out the window. And some people call it ego death. It's not a particularly pleasant experience, but boy, is it freeing. Is it ever freeing? So don't be afraid of yourself. I love that message. And with that said, that's all I have for you. I wish you a wonderful month of December. I wish you happy holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. If you would like a private message with me, or private session, I should say, that information is down below for you. Also, please do comment if this makes sense to you. I love your comments. I read every single one. I heart every single one, unless I miss it because my phone doesn't register it. Or somehow I miss it. So if I don't heart you, it's not because I personally chose not to heart you. It's because I missed it on my phone. Eventually I'll go in and I will heart every single one. I want to show you my appreciation. It's important for me that you know that I read these things. It's at the end of the day, I do it for you. I mean, I do it because I love it. I love it, but I do it for you. So I want to share it with you. And when I see that it makes a difference to you, that you appreciate it, or sometimes you don't appreciate it, and that's okay. But you giving me your time, which means you're giving me your energy, which means you're investing in this somehow. I want to thank you for that, because you can invest yourself in many other places with many other people. So thank you for that once again. And again, I wish you a wonderful month of December. Celebrate whatever it is that you celebrate in with safety. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.